Okay, so we're now looking at reflections. And again, the method is really important. So first few examples are going to be really straightforward. The shapes are going to be quite basic. You can probably do them by eye, but the method is going to be really important so that you can then do the harder questions. So watch how I do these questions. Now, when you're looking at reflections, you have the main object itself and then the reflected object as well. So in this case, we've been given a mirror line here, and we've got our object here, and then the image is what we're going to actually work out. Now, when you have your mirror line, all of the reflections will be at right angles to the mirror line. So what you want to do is, again, this is fairly straightforward, it's a vertical mirror line, and your shape is a nice block, is you want to draw a line that's perpendicular to the mirror line that meets a vertex of the shape. So in this case, I'm going to go from this point here, and I can see I'm going to meet the vertex of the shape there. And I can see I've traveled 2 units. I'm then going to do the same in the opposite direction, still perpendicular to the mirror line. So in this case, I'm traveling 2 units in that direction. So I can see that this point here ends up being that point there. What I'm then going to do is pick another vertex. So I'm going to try this one at the top here. So I'm drawing perpendicular to the mirror line, meeting the shape. And then I can see I've traveled 3 units to the left. Well, I'm now going to do 3 units to the right, in this case here. So I can now say that this point here has ended up that point down there. I'm now going to pick another vertex. So let's just try this one here, this one at the end, and I can see I'm going to travel 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the left. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to travel 4 units to the right. So we can say this point ends up down there. And just for the sake of completeness, you might already be able to figure this out, but I'm going to do just one more. I am now going to work out this vertex here. So I can see I'm traveling 3 units to the right, which means I'm going to need to go 3 units. 3 units to the left, which means I'm going to go 3 units to the right. So in this case, that's going to end up there. That might be enough to help you figure this out. So I'm just going to do one final one, just to be triple sure. I can see, I'm going to use a green pen so you can see it clearer. I now travelled 4 units to the left to get to that point there. So now I'm going to travel 4 units to the left to get to that point there. And that should give you, hopefully, enough of an idea of what your shape should look like. So I'll use a blue line this time for this. So you can see there's my top of my shape. I go 2 units down, and then I'm going to go in the opposite direction. And you can see there is the reflection of the shape. So the key point here is to be perpendicular to the mirror line. That's the most important thing to remember. So let's try another example here. Perpendicular, this time the mirror line is horizontal. So pick a vertex and you can go from a perpendicular direction to the shape in one direction, and you do the same in the opposite direction. In this case, this point is on the mirror line, so we're going 0 units away from the mirror line in the up direction, which means we go 0 units in the other direction as well, so it stays there. Now that's called an invariant point because it does not vary. Now invariant points is coming up later in the playlist, so just be aware of that. There are going to be some questions where you have to point out the invariant points. So in this case, you can see that because that point doesn't go anywhere, it's invariant, and you might be asked to give the coordinate of that point, for example. In this case, and now the last vertex here is, you can see it's going 2 units up. So I need to go 2 units down. And in this case, I can just fill out the rest of the shape. And there's my triangle. Okay, next shape. This time, the mirror line is at an angle. You will never get mirror lines which are anything other than horizontal, vertical, or at 45-degree angles, because otherwise it becomes a bit too complicated. So you don't have to worry about anything other than this is, you're by this question, you will have covered all the different angles of mirror lines, unless you get a 45-degree angle in the other direction, which is still technically the same. So in this case, we are going to be perpendicular to the line, which means we're going at right angles. So you can see I'm going to go one diagonal up and right. So now I'm going to go in the opposite direction, one diagonal in the other direction. So then you can just put a point there. And we're going to do the same with a lot of the other points here, because with diagonals it's very, very easy to get these mixed up, especially if you're new to drawing reflections. So don't take any shortcuts, there's no advantage. It's a really quick method, but you want to get as many vertices as possible until you're really confident that you have the shape. So in this case, you can see I'm going to go 2 units, 2 diagonals up and right. And I'm going to just do the same in the opposite directions, 2 diagonals down and left. And that's my next vertex. And now I'm going to pick another vertex out. So this time around I can see if I go 2 units up and right here, so I'm going to actually overlap my shape, 2 units up and right there, which means I'm going to go 2 units down and left. So that's going to be another vertex of my shape. And then we're going to look at this vertex here. So this time it's 1.5 units. You can see there's a half diagonal and then there's another half, there's a full diagonal, so 1.5 diagonals. And I'm going to do the same thing here. So this now ends up with another vertex. And then this one here, we can see we're going 3 diagonals. 3 diagonals, 1, 2, 3. So the shape should start to kind of be, it should start to form a shape here that you can kind of recognize. The last point, which might be quite helpful, is this one up here. So actually we can see we're going half, 1, 2, 3. So it's 3.5 diagonals up here. And then it's going to be half, 1, 2, 3, 3.5 diagonals down there. So this is our shape. We're just going to connect all the lines up now. And you can see the shape is being formed here, and there's your answer. So you don't have to pick every single vertex. I've just made a point of perhaps over explaining in this case here, just to avoid any kind of silly transformations. Do not try to do the classic mistake of maybe doing one vertex and then trying to, in your head, fill out the rest of the shape. At the same time, you might not need to do every single vertex like I've done here, but sensible enough so that you don't make any silly mistakes. So here's another example. This time we're still just reflecting it, always perpendicular to the line. So in this case, let's just get started here. It might be good for you to try this before I show you the answer so that you can get the practice in. And this time around, we are going to do this vertex here, so I can see that I am going one diagonal up and left, so now I'm going to go one diagonal down and right. So there's my vertex, and then I've got another. This is 1.5 diagonals. Went in the wrong direction there. So it's starting from the mirror line, 1.5 diagonals, and then 1.5 diagonals in the other direction. And then the last one, as you can see, I am going to travel 2.5 diagonals. So you can see there's 1, 2.5. So there's a half, 1, 2. So there's my shape there. And now we're just ready to connect the dots. And then there's your answer. your reflection with a diagonal mirror line. Okay, so the next type of question you might get is where the mirror line is not given to you, or is not drawn for you. It just happens to be one of the axes. So in a way, it technically is drawn for you. It's just you have to be able to recognize where the y-axis is, which hopefully should not be too much of an issue. If you want to draw over the y-axis, you can, but I think it's quite clear that this is going to be the y. This is the y-axis, and we're going to reflect our shape again. We're just going to use perpendiculars from the mirror line to the shape and then going in the opposite direction. So we'll start with a nice and simple one. So in this case, you can see I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units to the left, and then I'm going to go 5 units to the right. So that's my first vertex. The one up here is going to overlap our mirror line, so I'm going to go to the one at the end first. I can see that I'm going to have to travel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and again 5 here. So that's got my second vertex. And then the last mirror line, you can see I'm going 1 unit across. I'm going to go 1 unit in the other direction. Now, because it's a simple triangle, you just connect it up using a ruler and a pencil, and you've got your reflection. Okay, this time around, your mirror line is the x-axis. So try this out again before I show you the answer. And hopefully you've done it now. Pause the video if you haven't. Mirror line is the x-axis. Don't get that the wrong way around. And in this case, we can just draw out the perpendiculars to the mirror line. So these are going to overlap with each other. So starting from here, I can see I'm traveling 5 units up. So I need to travel 5 units down. So that's my first vertex. The second line, I'll do this in green. I'm traveling 3 units up, so I need to travel 3 units down. And you do the same for the other two, so 3 units up, 3 units down, and then that's going to be 6 units up, 6 units down. And you can see then you just, with a ruler, you connect these up using a pencil, and you've got your reflection. So the next part of the video is just going to be a lot of practice, but you should now have all the skills to be able to work out any types of reflections. If you're still not sure, then watch the remaining examples, which will be on the next part of the playlist. Hit subscribe, smash the like button,